If a deadly new app just told you that you only had 24 hours left to live, what would you do? Most people would probably think that it's just a joke, but these kids are gonna find out the hard way that this app is out for blood. And no matter how hard they try to change things, there's no way to escape their fate. We're here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the killer app in Countdown. These kids can see their own deaths coming, but there's nothing that they can do to stop it. One night at a house party, this girl Courtney and her friends accidentally find an app called Countdown that's supposed to tell you exactly when you're going to die. Curious, they decide to download it and accept the terms and conditions without reading through like any normal person would. But that was their biggest mistake. Most of them get good news, but for Courtney here, the app says that she only has 3.5 hours left to live. Everyone treats this like it's just a joke, but they're about to find out that the app is actually telling the truth. Later, Courtney and her boyfriend Evan are about to drive home, but she notices that he's in pretty bad shape from partying all night and decides to walk instead. Just then, she gets a notification from the app telling her that she's broken the user agreement and now she only has 7 minutes left before she's going to die. Terrified, she runs into her house and slams the door shut behind her, but her phone won't stop making disturbing noises. So she decides to just turn it off. While in the bathroom trying to calm herself down, she hears a noise from somewhere behind her and rips open the shower curtain to confront the intruder, only to find that there's no one really there. Just when she takes her eyes off of it, she hears the noise again, and when she looks back, the curtain is closed. This time when she goes to open it, she's stopped in her tracks when her phone screams, having somehow been turned back on and opened to the app. Before she even knows what's happening, the girl is suddenly lifted up to the ceiling, thrown into the walls, and finally dropped back down to the floor, breaking her neck on the side of the tub. Across town, we can see that Evan here has crashed his car off of the side of the road. Although he survived, a massive tree branch was pushed straight through the seat where Courtney should have been, and it looks like she would have died either way. Okay, these kids were treating this like it was just a harmless gimmick, but it turns out that this app is deadly serious. Courtney made a wise decision by not getting in the car with Evan in the hopes of avoiding her fate, but ended up getting killed in an even more horrifying way, despite trying her best to play things safe. It looks like we're dealing with some kind of final abstination type scenario, yeah, where even if you try to cheat the death countdown, a supernatural force comes to kill you either way. We may not know what this entity's powers or overall goals are, but one thing we know for sure is that it's connected to her phone, and specifically connected to the Countdown app. These days, mobile apps are a common part of everyday life. A mobile app is essentially a computer program that is specifically designed to run on your mobile device. When you download the app from a digital distribution platform like the Apple App Store, Google Play Store, Microsoft Store, what you're doing is receiving the program from this distributor and saving the code within your device's internal storage system so that you can access the app whenever you want. Once the app is downloaded onto your device, it will be saved there until you choose to remove it, but it doesn't have to be there forever. Simply uninstalling the app clears the program from your storage, completely removing it from your device unless you decide to download it again. This might seem obvious, but if I were really worried that this app was going to kill me, then the first thing that I'd do here would be try to uninstall it. Later, we're gonna find out that this would have actually worked, but you never know until you try, so at least it's a place to start. Now, many apps require internet access to function, so the next thing that Courtney should have tried here was completely cutting off her phone from the internet. She could start by going into her phone's settings and turning on airplane mode, and then turning the device off completely for good measure. For extra security, she could have even tried to quickly put together a signal blocking container, and then put her shut-off phone inside. Specifically designed Faraday bags are available for this purpose, but in a pinch, you can easily create one using aluminum foil. And you can actually try this at home. Completely wrap your cell phone in foil and then call it from another phone. If you did it right, then the call won't go through because the signal is being blocked. We've just about covered all of the ways in which Courtney could have reacted once she had the app on her phone, but the truth is that if she'd only been paying a bit more attention, then she might have picked up on some early warning signs and never downloaded the app in the first place. Before she even downloaded the app, she saw that it only had an average review score of 3.5 stars out of 5. This means that several people must have left some negative reviews, and if Courtney had done some digging through the comments, then she might have caught some red flags about the whole demon coming to kill you thing that would have made her think twice about accepting those terms and conditions. As one final bit of security, I would have stayed close to the rest of my friends until the timer was up instead of going home alone. That way, they might have been able to help if things went horribly wrong, or at least have been there to try and witness whatever happened. Bottom line, don't ask when you're going to die, because you probably won't like the answer. For now, we'll have to wait until we find out more about what this entity is and what exactly it wants. But it won't be long before the app strikes again. After the accident, Evan here is taken to the local hospital where he's treated by an intern named Quinn. One day, she finds him hiding out in an abandoned section of the building and can tell right away that he's got something on his mind. As crazy as he knows that it's going to sound, Evan shows her the Countdown app and says that he's going to die during his upcoming surgery. When Quinn questions it, he responds by telling her what happened to his girlfriend, explaining that she died exactly when the app said that she would, despite avoiding the accident. Still, Quinn promises him that he's got nothing to worry about, but Evan isn't convinced. At the end of her shift, curiosity takes over, and Quinn downloads the app for herself, once again ignoring the terms and conditions. What she sees isn't good, despite her being perfectly healthy. The app says that she's going to die in just under 3 days. The next morning, Evan here is anxiously waiting to go into surgery, but the app says that he's going to die in exactly 3 minutes. Nervous, he decides to get up and use the bathroom, but that's when he gets a notification saying that he's broken the user agreement. Just then, he notices a tall figure dressed in a black cloak standing behind him in the reflection of a mirror, until it's suddenly broken by an unseen force. Terrified, he takes off to hide in the stairwell, but the lights go out the moment that he steps through the door. He realizes that he's locked out with no way to get back inside. The door opens from somewhere below, and he can hear the sounds of someone quickly walking towards him. Turning on his flashlight, he sees his dead girlfriend standing on the steps just above him. But when she turns around, her face is twisted and demonic. Suddenly, she rushes towards him and throws him over the railing down 5 stories to the ground floor, killing him instantly from the fall. Okay, I guess that Evan here really should have taken the elevator instead. So far, whatever this entity is, seems to have a thing for breaking people's necks, so investigating a motocross-type neck brace and avoiding any places where you could suffer a high fall should be a good place to start. I know that he wasn't exactly in the best fighting shape, but it seems like Evan here could have at least tried taking a couple swings at the creature with his crutches before his zombified girlfriend tossed him over the railing. Now, all joking aside, it may be too late for Evan now, but we can still learn from his mistakes. Based on what happened to both him and Courtney, it seems like they break the agreement whenever they change what's supposed to happen. This means that the best thing to do here would be to find out exactly what the user agreement says, because you need to know if there are any loopholes that you could exploit to get out of it. Now, Evan here tried to change his fate because he was afraid that he would die during surgery, but maybe, in this one particular case, simply letting things play out how they were supposed to would have been the smarter choice. I know what you're thinking, and yes, I really am suggested that he possibly should have accepted his death without trying to change the outcome, but hear me out, because I've got a reason why this might have worked. Under the right conditions, a person can technically die without being dead forever, and it's more common than you might think. In medical terms, there's a significant difference between what's known as clinical death and permanent biological death. A person is considered to be clinically dead when their heart stops beating and blood stops circulating throughout their body. But as it turns out, you actually still have about 5 minutes before suffering irreversible brain damage and becoming what's called biologically dead, which there's no coming back from. It's far from easy, but during this time, it's possible to revive someone by getting their heart pumping again, and this is achieved by either performing CPR or by using a life-saving device called a defibrillator. While it's definitely not something that you'd normally want to risk, if there's one place where you might stand a chance at coming back from clinical death, it's in a modern hospital surrounded by highly trained medical professionals. There's no way to know now, but it is entirely possible that Evan could have died on the operating table only to be brought back by the doctors, and thereby survive beyond the Countdown app's predictions. Oh, it's a long shot, but it's still better than nothing. It looks like you can try to run, and you can try to hide, but the app gets you either way. So for Quinn here, her only choice is going to be to find a way to fight back before her time runs out. When she arrives at work later that day, it isn't long before Quinn learns that Evan is dead. Worried, she quietly grabs his phone before sneaking down to the morgue, where she has to open his eyes and use his face to unlock it. Sure enough, the last thing he had open was the Countdown app, and the numbers are completely zeroed out. Evan's hand suddenly moves, scaring Quinn and causing her to drop the phone. But when she looks back up, she sees that the dead body is staring straight at her. Horrified, she quickly covers him up and sticks him back in the freezer, becoming convinced that the app could be real. Back at her desk, Quinn checks her own app and sees that she has just under 2 days to live, showing that she would die on an upcoming trip with her family. Now that she's starting to believe it, she calls her dad to reschedule the visit, but the app doesn't approve of this change of plans, letting her know that she's just broken the user agreement. While she's making her rounds, Quinn's boss, Dr. Sullivan, calls her into one of the rooms. As soon as he gets her alone, the doctor starts making unwanted advances towards her, and he isn't taking no for an answer. Furious, Quinn shoves him away, but he quickly starts trying to sweep the whole thing under the rug as if it never happened. She's not about to let him get away with it though, and rushes out to tell the head nurse. But before she can say anything, the doctor steps in and calls the nurse away, never giving Quinn the chance to tell her the truth. That night, Quinn starts to get worried as she can't delete the app no matter what she tries. While doing some research to try and solve the problem, she discovers an article about Courtney's death and realizes that it's the same girl who Evan was dating. Scrolling through the comments, she finds a video posted by another user of their friend who died shortly after downloading the app. In the video, the girl reports having visions of dead relatives until she suddenly appears to be killed on camera when her timer finally runs out. The comments all say that it's fake, reassuring Quinn until she closes her laptop and suddenly sees a vision of a demonically possessed Evan sitting at the foot of her bed, although he quickly disappears when she turns on the lights. Shaken up, she stomps on her phone and decides to sleep out in her car, but the app is still counting down, showing that she has about 36 hours before her time is up. Okay, Quinn's time is officially running out, and if she doesn't want to end up like Evan here, she's going to need to come up with a plan and fast. We still don't know all that much about what the entity is or how it operates, but after these most recent attacks, there is a pattern that's started to show up that could give Quinn a good place to start. So far, a zombified version of Courtney seems to have gone after Evan, and a zombified version of Evan just appeared to Quinn. Following this pattern, it seems like whatever this creature is could be taking the form of the last person that it killed whenever it's targeting its next victim. If this turns out to be true, then perhaps completely destroying Evan's body or getting help from a professional to have the evil spirits somehow cleansed from it could stop the entity from coming after her. We've seen that no matter what Quinn tries, she doesn't seem to be able to delete the app from her phone. This isn't exactly the best news, but given that most apps do need an internet connection to function, it couldn't hurt to try shutting off her Wi-Fi and cell service, powering down the phone, and even putting it in a Faraday bag like we discussed earlier, just to make sure that she has those simple options covered. With the time that she has left, Quinn needs to continue doing as much research as she can to try to find out more about the app. The video that she's just watched of another unsuspecting victim meeting their fate is far from reassuring, but with that being said, it gives me an idea. She needs to keep searching for posts from people who've used the app, and specifically, any stories of someone who might have managed to survive beyond their countdown. This would be the best place to start, but if there's no record of anyone ever having lived past their time, then she could at least look for any connections between the ways that the various victims have all died, and pay attention to any similarities in the stories, such as if they were alone when it happened, or if there's one particular way that they've all been killed. By now we know that the entity will still come to kill you even if you try and change your fate, but that doesn't mean that she can't at least make doing so a bit more difficult. For example, she could find a relatively safe place to wait, like the middle of a grassy field on a clear day, and have a trusted family member standing by who's ready to dial 911 and start trying to resuscitate her if she suddenly stops dead. If she really wants to hedge her bets, then she could start by looking up the most common causes of death for people her age, and doing whatever she can to avoid those situations. To play it extra safe, she'll want to stay far away from any cars, pools, open flames, or high places when the countdown is getting close to the end. Of course, avoiding a natural death would mean that she'll still have to survive an encounter with the entity, which we still don't fully understand. She needs to get ready to fight whatever's coming, but what exactly is it anyway? We may not have much to go off of, but based on the powers that we've seen so far, specifically its ability to move objects and cause horrifying hallucinations, we can make the educated guess that she's up against some kind of demonic spirit, which we're going to find out later is exactly the case. To fight back, she could seek advice from a religious leader like a priest or a spiritual healer. They may be able to identify if there are any evil spirits latched onto her and give her advice for what she can do to stop it. At this point, any idea is going to be worth trying, and she needs to act quickly if she's going to survive. After a few hours, Quinn here is startled awake by a surprise from her younger sister. The girl explains that their dad went on a work trip and she snuck away from her babysitter's house, hoping to stay there instead. While they're talking, Jordan tries to download the Countdown app for herself, but Quinn rips the phone out of her hands and tells her sister that she can't stay. Desperate for this nightmare to end, she decides to go to a local technology repair shop, and the snarky clerk sets her up with a brand new phone that's fresh out of the box. As she goes to leave, she gets another update from the Countdown app, although she never downloaded it onto this phone in the first place. Confused, she rushes back up to the counter and asks the clerk to explain how this could be possible, but quickly realizes how crazy this makes her look and storms back out of the store to figure things out for herself. Just as she's about to leave the parking lot, Quinn sees a mysterious figure in a black cloak appear in her backup camera. Suddenly, a pair of demonic hands reaches up from the back seat and wraps around her face, causing her to floor it in reverse straight into the side of a parked car. The driver is furious and starts shouting at Quinn in a rage for what she did, but before she can even respond, another man comes out of the store and gets in his face, forcing him to back off. The guy introduces himself as Matt and shows her that he has the Countdown app as well, saying that he's going to die the very next day. The two of them decide to go to a bar where they start trying to figure out why they've been chosen to die so soon, and quickly discover that neither one of them actually read all the way through the user agreement before signing up. Thinking it over, Matt realizes that they can get this conspiracy theorist at the end of the bar to download the app. That way, they'll be able to see the agreement again and possibly learn what's really going on. After talking the man into it, they stop him just as he gets to the right screen, where it says that they must accept the terms of their fate. and that trying to change the outcome while using the app will result in a breach of their agreement. Putting the pieces together, they remember that each of them canceled a trip at the time when they found out that they're supposed to die. But no matter how they try to change things, death is still coming for them. Searching for answers, they stop by the hospital to ask the priest if they might be dealing with a demonic presence. To their disappointment, he says that he doesn't actually believe in such things, but points them in the direction of someone who can help. Before they leave, Matt stops in to quickly use the bathroom. While he's washing his hands, he hears what sounds like a young kid crying inside one of the stalls, until he reaches the very end, where his feet snap completely backwards and he disappears through the back wall. Suddenly, all of the lights go out at once, and the door to the stall swings open. But when Matt goes to check it out, it looks like no one's there. That's when the kid emerges from the shadows behind him and leaps across the room, tackling him to the floor. Panicking, Matt tries his best to fight it off, only to snap out of it and realize that the whole encounter was all in his head. Okay, these visions are terrifying, but they all need to remember something that's very important. The whole point of the app is to tell them exactly when they're gonna die. Until that moment, these visions can't really hurt them, which means that they aren't in any more danger than walking through a haunted house at a carnival. Don't get me wrong, they've still got a lot to be afraid of, but for now, they can at least feel reassured knowing that this app spirit has given them the exact time and date that it's actually going to attack. At the bar, they finally got their first look at the actual terms and conditions for the app. If we're being honest, we all accept these sorts of agreements without reading them all the time, but the truth is that by doing so, we're technically signing a contract. And it's 100% legally binding, even if you didn't pay full attention to what it said. Now, it's important to remember that apps don't just pop up out of nowhere. Besides writing the code, it usually takes an entire team of people to make sure that an app is consumer ready, and the Countdown app isn't any different. According to our quick glimpse at the terms and conditions screen, it looks like Countdown Fate Systems LLC is an actual company that exists in their world, meaning there's a good chance that the app was created by mere mortals and the demon just got itself involved somewhere along the way. If this is true, then they could quickly get in contact with a lawyer and see if there are any loopholes in the agreement that they might be able to exploit to avoid their fate. And why stop there? They'll have to find a way to extend their countdown first, but if they could, then they could even try taking this demonic company before a judge and settling things in a court of law. For example, an unreasonably dangerous product is defined as any product that poses greater risks than an ordinary user might reasonably expect when using the product as intended. Now, I'm no licensed attorney, but I'd have to imagine that an app that sends a literal demonic entity after its users to kill them must violate some kind of consumer safety laws. It's far from the perfect solution, but it's worth a shot if it's the only chance that you have. There was also a specific part on the screen that said you were forced to accept the terms of this agreement, unless you have a different license agreement signed by Countdown Fate Systems LLC. Okay, so find out where their headquarters is and get them to write up a new agreement that lets you change your fate. Trick them into it, or do it by force if you have to. Whatever it takes to make this agreement null and void so that you can go on living without an app demon trying to claim your soul. Meanwhile, the head nurse brings Quinn into a meeting room and sits her down in front of a board with her superiors. It turns out that Dr. Sullivan here got to them first, and he's trying to pin the whole incident on her. Furious, Quinn insists that she's innocent and storms out of the room, grabbing Matt so that the two of them can find a way to save their own lives before worrying about how she's going to keep her job. When they get to the church, they find the priest chilling in his library, and this time things go a lot better. Not only does Father John here believe in demons, but he's a full-blown demon enthusiast and says that learning more about them is the whole reason why he wanted to become a priest in the first place. After listening to their explanation of what's been going on, the priest says says that it reminds him of a story from one of his books. In ancient times, a young prince visited a fortune teller before his first major battle, and the woman revealed the exact moment when he was going to die, but warned him not to try and change his fate. Ignoring her advice, he sent his younger brother to lead the troops instead, but somehow his brother ended up surviving. The prince became convinced that the angel of death was following him and went back to the fortune teller for help. But by then, it was already too late. According to her, it wasn't death that was coming for him, it was a demon known as Ozhin, who relentlessly tormented the prince until the very last moment when the fortune teller said that he would die. After finishing his story, the priest says that he might be able to help them if he could somehow see the code of the app, and that's when Quinn realizes that she knows just the guy. Quinn and Matt hurry back over to the phone store, where they pay off the clerk to help them hack into the app. While opening it up, he notices that the download requires a whole 60 gigs, which is insanely large for a program that's so simple. He also points out some of the code seems to be written in Latin, although he can't understand what it says. Digging deeper, they find their own names next to how much time they have left, and the clerk changes the countdown to make them live all the way into their 90s, including Quinn's younger sister, who was supposed to die just a few minutes before her. Relieved, the two of them thank the clerk and decide to spend the night at Quinn's place, thinking that they've managed to solve the problem. But the demon won't be giving up so easily. That night, Quinn wakes up from a terrifying dream, only to find out that both of their timers have been reset to their original time of death. Realizing that her sister's probably reset too, Quinn quickly tries to call Jordan, who's spending the night at the babysitter's house. Checking her phone, Jordan sees that her sister tried calling her several times, and she only has 4 hours left to live according to the app. The girl goes back to her bedroom and shuts the door behind her, but just then, the motion-activated nightlight in the hallway clicks on, and when she turns around to find out why, she sees that her door is sitting wide open. Jordan quickly takes cover under her bed, until suddenly, it's violently pulled to the other end of the room, and a vision of her dead mother appears on the floor, lying next to her, asking the girl where her sister is in a demonic voice. Terrified, the girl panics and runs straight for the door just as Quinn and Matt show up to get her. After picking up Jordan, the three of them race back to the church to get more help from Father John. As he's reading through the Latin sections of the code, he comes to the conclusion that they've all been cursed, and the demonic spirit won't leave them alone until all three of them are dead. That's bad news, but the good news is that he knows a way that they might be able to beat it. According to Father John, curses come from the servants of evil, and if they can prove that the evil spirit to be a liar, then they can break the curse and save themselves. To do this, they'll need to prove the phone wrong, either by having someone die before they're supposed to, or by keeping one of them alive for just a second longer than the countdown says. Choosing option 2, they decide that their best chance is to perform an ancient protection ritual that should buy them some time. They're going to make a sacred symbol out of salt, and as long as they stay inside the circle, no evil spirits should be able to get them. Okay, it looks like there's about to be a showdown, and it's a good thing that they've finally called in an expert to help them out. They've got their battle plan drawn up and are ready to see it through, but let's take a quick moment to see if they have any other options. The priest here has confirmed that they're under attack by an actual demon. And if you're a fan of the channel, then you're probably very familiar with how these spirits work. As a refresher, demons are essentially evil spirits whose ultimate goals are to harm and sometimes possess innocent victims. They can go about this in any number of ways, but it's generally agreed that demons can only take full possession of human beings, not inanimate objects, like a phone app. They can, however, attach themselves to these objects and use them to inflict harm, but they need permission from the owner of the object to do that. This means that somewhere along the line, someone had to allow the demon to inhabit this app. And if they could just find that person, then they might be able to reverse the curse. But as of now, their time is too limited to make that work. One of the most well-known ways to get rid of a demon is through the process of an exorcism. Since an object like an app can't be possessed, you can't perform an exorcism on it, but you can perform an exorcism on a person. Everything started to go wrong when they invited the demon in by downloading the app and accepting the conditions. Since Matt knows that he's going to die next, he could make a heroic sacrifice by offering to let the demon possess him fully and then have the priest banish it back to the underworld, which might just solve the whole issue. It could also make things way worse, but I'd say it's about a 50-50 chance that everything will work out fine, and that's better than nothing. Like the priest said, they could always get someone that they don't like and try to sacrifice them before their time is up instead, effectively using them as a meat shield. This turns out to be exactly what Quinn is going to try later, but it's not going to work out the way that she thinks. With so little time, it looks like their only option right now is to prepare themselves for the demonic encounter and hope for the best. It's not going to be easy, but as long as they listen to the priest and stay in the circle no matter what happens, then they should be aight. Using supplies from the basement, they mark out the symbol on the floor in white paint and sprinkle in a healthy amount of salt all around it to finish the ritual. Matt gets nervous after realizing that he only has 2 minutes left to live, meaning that the demon will be coming for him next, when suddenly the entire basement goes dark and they know that the attack is about to begin. Father John calls everyone into the sigil as the demonic force circles around the room and random objects start flying off the shelves. They can feel the presence getting closer, but so far no one sees anything there until suddenly the demon appears in its true form standing directly behind Jordan. It circles around them, but it's unable to pass through the seal, and the priest begins to recite prayers in Latin, commanding it back to the underworld. For a moment, it actually looks like they've got the upper hand, but just when the demon finally disappears, an overwhelmingly painful sound starts playing from Matt's phone. Suddenly, everyone else has somehow disappeared, leaving Matt alone in the middle of the circle. As he looks around, he sees a vision of his little brother, who tragically passed away when they were much younger. The kid steps backwards, tricking Matt into stepping out of the circle, and by the time that he realizes what he's just done, it's already too late. In an instant, the demon grabs Matt by his ankle and drags him all of the way out of the building. The girls try chasing after him, but they break the protective circle in the process, and the demon quickly knocks over some shelves to block their path, with only Quinn managing to get through in time. Outside, she finds Matt still alive. He thinks that the plan must have worked, but suddenly he's hit by a speeding truck that he never saw coming. Horrified, Quinn runs over to help him, but there's nothing that she can do, and he dies at the exact moment that his countdown reaches 0. Okay, and that's why you always look both ways before crossing the road. They were so close to victory, but Matt here choked at the bitter end. Now, he's dead, and the demon's rampage can continue, so there's only one thing left to say: Matt, you f***ed up! I want to feel bad for you here because you seemed like a nice guy, but come on, man, you had one job. Don't step out of the circle. You've probably known how a circle works since you were about 2 years old. So this should have been easy, but you blew it at the last moment and ended up paying the price. The problem was that you fell for the demon's trick. I get that we can't expect everyone to be as well prepared as Father Amarath over here, but resisting the mind games is pretty much demon fighting 101. You need to remember that it's going to try and trick you into coming out of the circle, and you can't trust anything that you see until the ritual is fully complete. If he had pulled this off, then he would have potentially saved everyone who's ever gotten involved with the app, but it's too late. And now the girls will have to find another way to save their own lives. You could have gone down as the hero, but instead you went out as the speed bump, and the truth hurts, but Matt, you up! Jordan here got badly injured in the fight too, and Quinn's forced to rush her sister to the hospital. While she's checking them in, one of the other nurses pulls her aside and says that she believes her side of the story about what happened with the doctor, which gives Quinn a last-minute idea. She's going to kill him before his countdown is up. and hopefully break the demon's curse. After promising her sister that she'll be back soon, Quinn goes to the doctor's office and pretends that she wants to apologize, telling him to meet her in the abandoned wing for another chance. He's suspicious, but eventually decides to follow her in anyway, having no idea that he's walking straight into a trap. When he gets to the abandoned wing, Quinn makes him try to find her by playing a game of Marco Polo, luring him further and further away from help. As soon as she's got him cornered, she charges at him from the shadows, knocking him down with a few strikes from her crowbar, and attempting to inject him with a lethal amount of morphine. But the demon uses its powers to drag him away before she can finish the job. Okay, Quinn here has no time to waste. With so little time, taking out the doctor is her only option. Otherwise, she and her sister are as good as demon food. Next time that she gets the jump on this creep, she needs to finish the job as quickly as possible instead of stopping to smack talk. Although I definitely understand the urge to take him down a peg or two first. The countdown keeps getting closer with every second, and what Quinn should really do here is keep her sister close by while they search for the doctor together. This way, when Jordan's time runs out, the demon will be forced to choose between taking her or stopping Quinn from killing the doctor. And this just might give her the exact window that she needs to get it done. Sensing that something's wrong, Jordan comes running in just as her sister is about to give it another try. Quinn leaves her behind, determined to find the doctor and kill him before time runs out, but this time, she's the one walking into a trap. As she's searching for him in another of the abandoned rooms, the doctor jumps out from where he's been hiding and slugs her straight in the face. The fight spills out into the hallway, where Quinn stops him by throwing the crowbar into his back as he's running for his life, but just when she's about to inject him, the demon flings her back across the hall and injures her leg, making it impossible for her to keep chasing. It's too late for that now anyway, because Jordan's time is about to run out, and that's when Quinn realizes that the demon is going after her younger sister. Terrified, Jordan decides to hide out in the abandoned morgue of all places, but ends up getting trapped inside with only 90 seconds to live. Just then, one of the freezer doors opens on its own, and when Jordan goes to check it out, the demon grabs her, tossing her through the window. As it stands over her, about to go in for the kill, Quinn finally finds them and shows that she's going to sacrifice herself as a last-ditch attempt to break the curse. The demon quickly changes into a vision of her dead mother as a way to distract her, and for a moment it almost works, but at the last second, Quinn injects herself with the morphine, dying before her countdown is up. Furious, the demon raises her body into the air, still attempting to claim her soul, but when it reaches out to touch her, it's suddenly overwhelmed by a powerful force and instantly crumbles into dust. Heartbroken, Jordan rushes over to her sister, but while she's begging her to wake up, a bottle of Narcan rolls out of her hand. With only seconds to spare, Jordan injects her sister with the life-saving medication, and Quinn miraculously wakes up, having survived her brush with death. For now, it looks like they've managed to defeat the demon, but the truth is that it isn't done with them just yet. Sometime later, the girls and their father finally get a chance to visit their mother's grave. While there, they see a news report saying that Dr. Sullivan is facing a long sentence in prison for doing the same thing to several of her co-workers. It seems like they're going to live happily ever after, when suddenly, Quinn gets an update on her phone saying that Countdown 2.0 has been installed, and the demon is already back to finish what it started. Man, these app developers will think of anything. An app that literally tells you when your life is about to end? What do they think of next? A notebook where if you write someone's name in it, they'll die of a heart attack? Wait a minute. Let us know down in the comments below what you would have done. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe, and check out the How to Beat playlist for more videos just like this one. And oh yeah, have a damn good day.